Aaron, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this because I've kind of teased it. I saw that you put on Twitter that you have some life news, some career news.
Oh, no. I mean, as it pertains to this show, it's really not significant. But go ahead, Drew.
But it is significant. And apparently today is the last day that you will be writing for Kentucky Sports Radio. Is there something you want to announce, a future endeavor that you will be?
Oh, you want to break news? Oh, you think you're the Woj of the media of the C-minus sports media beat? Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly. I got to start Drew bombs, man.
Well, first of all, I'm not C-minus, so bad answer. But no, KSR has been a great writing home for me for about three and a half years now, and I'm going in a different direction with my career. Now, the good news is my podcast, the Aaron Torres podcast, and there are a lot of people in Arkansas that listen. That will not change. Everything will go on as planned. I will have a new episode Monday as if nothing has changed since the last episode. Writing-wise, I'll be doing something a little bit different. I hope to have some details here. But ultimately, I'm going to be writing the same crap, just in a different place. Mostly college sports. I'll do I know you're a little new to the Torres beat here, Drew, but, I'll be doing my college football picks. I have a couple buddies that, are going to be writing NFL for me. Obviously when the seasons start, we'll be talking about all sorts of different stuff. We'll be following college hoops, the transfer portal, all that craziness. And of course, Arkansas's run to Omaha in the spring of 2022. So, it's always weird doing posts like that because I tried to encapsulate it in the actual written part of it, but you get a million questions. Nothing is really changing for most people that follow me. But the people that do read KSR on the regular, I did write there a couple times a week, and that is officially a thing of the past.
Well, Aaron, I look forward to checking out your new stuff and following along, and I appreciate you joining us each and every week on Friday. But, Aaron, one thing that I haven't heard talked about that I want to get your opinion on, and you work for Fox Sports Radio, and I know it's kind of a different entity than a lot of the other Fox stuff and the money and stuff, where the money goes and who's in charge, but have you heard of anybody, maybe Fox or CBS, maybe thinking about trying to capitalize on this beef that Bob Bowlesby has with ESPN and try to become the exclusive media partner for the Big 12 as long as it does stay together for the next 4 years? Because Bob Bowlesby biting the hand that feeds him doesn't sound smart, and it sounds like he might be trying to get out of it.
Drew, I don't know that it's biting the hand that feeds him because the hand that feeds him is also trying to starve him to death, And so it's a weird thing. This was obviously a surreal week, and it's crazy because, Texas and Oklahoma officially accept the invites today. They get voted in yesterday. But I don't really know that those are bigger stories individually than Bob Bowlesby going after the Big 12. And so when I look at the situation with the Big 12, I don't blame Bob Bowlesby for doing this. I mean, he believes that he has real evidence that not only did ESPN help Texas and Oklahoma kind of get to the SEC, but then beyond that, they were trying to help the other 8 teams find a soft landing spot so that ESPN could get out of their TV contract. And so, what it says to me is this, Drew. Listen, nothing is going to change. Texas and Oklahoma are going to play in the SEC at some point, but Bob Bowlesby seems to be ready to dig in his heels, and if he has to fight until 2025 to get every other member of this league as much money as they can and maybe potentially stabilize this league, then I think that's what he is going to do. Now, ultimately, if you kind of read the tea leaves, if you kind of put 2 and 2 together, it kind of seems as though the ESPN was helping those other 8 Big 12 teams because it makes sense for them to get those other spots, those other schools a landing spot to get Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC faster. So that was a lot of words for me to say. It just feels all I really got out of that is that Bob Bowlesby appears ready to fight. And even in his statement, when Texas and Oklahoma officially asked for permission to join the SEC, it appeared as though it was a situation where he said, we look forward to having them as members until 2025, and it appears as though they're going to continue to fight.
So let's say that is the timeline. We do have the four most awkward years of all college athletics, with Texas and OU staying in the Big 12. In order for Bob Bowlesby and the remaining 8 to save the Big 12 brand, does somebody else remaining in that 8 have to emerge as a power in college football, have to emerge as somebody that can compete with Texas and OU and possibly get to a CFP on a year-to-year basis? And if that's what's going to save it, who out of the remaining 8 do you think has that capability?
Well, it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing, Drew, is that, I just look at, can Iowa State emerge as a regular playoff contender? Maybe. But, what makes Oklahoma and specifically Texas appealing to ESPN and the SEC has nothing to do. Drew, how many times have we gone into December talking about Texas's college football playoff chances? It hasn't happened. And so, unfortunately, so much of this realignment, not just this year, but the past 15 years is about, the brands that you can bring in, the marketability that they have. And it's even funny to watch from a few years ago in the 2009, 10, 11 realignment to now, where, back then, for people who forget, and I think it's been pretty well discussed at this point, it was about adding TV markets, right? It was the Big Ten going after Maryland and Rutgers because they believed that Maryland would bring in a bunch of new households for the Big Ten TV contracts, and Rutgers would bring in the New Jersey market, which is an idiotic idea.
It very much
I think there's more Rutgers football fans in Fort Smith right now as there are in Times Square. But, that was the deal back then. Now it's about brand. It's about name recognition because obviously the sheer number of TV and cable subscribers just isn't as many as it was a decade ago. And so to me, what the Big 10 is the Big 12 is going to struggle with is twofold, is that I just don't know, one, what appeal do their other 8 schools have to other conferences, even if Iowa State gets good, even if Oklahoma State makes a run at a college football playoff, do they really move the needle where they can kind of be that face of the conference? But then the other equally important thing, and I don't think people are talking about it, there's no one that they can bring in that helps replace Texas and Oklahoma in terms of the TV contract and TV network size. I think people forget this, but about 2, 3, 4 years ago, the Big 12 wanted to expand again.
Oh, I remember. Aaron being in Memphis, I remember.
So you do remember, and that's really important, Drew. And I think a lot of people that weren't in the belly of the beast like you were, they forgot about that. And what the Big 12 basically found was that whether it was Memphis, whether it was Houston, whether it was UCF, whether it was BYU, whether it was Boise, it wasn't going to fundamentally change and increase their TV contract. And so I think that's all, again, a long-winded way of me basically saying, these other 8 schools don't have much value to other conferences, but there's nobody else out there that's a free agent that has value to them either. It's incredible to think about.
It really is, and I've talked about it today at length of that whole expansion back in 2015 of when they gave us hope. They finally, I thought, as I was a student at the University of Memphis at the time, and I remember finally having hope, thinking, I've been waiting my entire life to finally have a seat at the table, and it looks like we're finally going to get, they're pulling out our chair, they're letting us sit, and then they ripped it out from beneath us, saying that you don't deserve it, you won't ever have this chair, and I've hated Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 ever since for it. So I think that's why I've been pretty hard on Bob, because I take personal issue with what happened in 2015. But out of the remaining conference, let's say the vultures start circling and you got to start picking the carcass left of the Big 12, who is set up to capitalize on that more? It's got to be the Pac-12, just due to the fact that they're the last one to have 12 teams, right?
Yes and no. I mean, and it goes back to my last answer, Drew. I think the Pac-12 kind of understands, a few things. It's important to note the reason that Oklahoma and Texas are leaving the Big 12 is because the TV networks basically said these other 8 schools have no value to us. And I forget the number, but it's something absurd like 60-70% of the TV contract value is going to go away without Texas and Oklahoma. It might even be more. It might be like 80%. But I bring all that up because of the fact that the Pac-12 has a really tough decision to make, because the TV networks have already basically told them, hey, you can add if you want to add, go crazy, go ahead, have a ball. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're not going to change your TV contract. It's not going to increase revenue for the other schools. And on top of that, I would say this, Drew, as well. Even if you had kind of a non-traditional brand that you believed could help you get teams into the college football playoff in in the 12-team playoff whenever we get to it, 2023, 2024, 2025, I think that's a conversation you have to have as a conference. I don't know that any of those teams really help. I mean, I know Oklahoma State's kind of been on the cusp for a couple times, Iowa State, but are you really going to send USC to Iowa State in the middle of November? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
So, yeah, it's just, I just look at it, and the Pac-12 commissioner kind of said this week at Media Days, like, look, we're open to a lot of different things, but we're also not in a rush, and nor do we feel the need that we have to expand. And I thought that was a really telling thing for him to say that a lot of people missed, but it's something that makes sense. There is nobody, again, kind of with the same with the Big 12. There's nobody that brings immediate value to who you are and what you're doing, and I think the Pac-12 kind of looks at it in the same perspective.
We're talking with Aaron Torres from Fox Sports Radio and the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Aaron_Torres. Aaron, before we let you go, I know that you follow college basketball just as much as you follow it on the football side. Out of last night's draft, it's being touted and being talked about as being up there with the 03, 96, and 84 draft class. Who, when it's all said and done, do you think will be the Michael Jordan, the Kobe Bryant, the LeBron James of this class?
Cade Cunningham is still, in my opinion, the best player. And they talked about it. I don't know if you guys watched the coverage last night or not. I'm sure you were watching to see where Moses Moody landed. Mm-hmm. But, Michael Schmidt said a couple times that he thought Cade Cunningham was maybe the most complete prospect that he has followed or that he's evaluated. Mike does this on a much higher level than I do. I can tell you Cade Cunningham's the best high school basketball player that I have ever seen. And he did not disappoint at the college level. And so this is all just my way of saying that, I think he's going to be really good. I think the thing that stood out to me last night, Drew, Jalen Suggs was dynamic from day one, hour one, minute one.
Phenomenal.
He helped change the culture at Gonzaga. Great kid by all accounts, all that stuff. So to see him fall to number 4, I was a little surprised, specifically with the decision by Toronto to pass on him to fall at number 5. But
go Scotty Barnes,
Toronto pass on him at number 4, I was actually really genuinely surprised by. Not the move I would have made. I like Scotty Barnes. I think he's really talented. But I think Jalen Suggs, in the end, I think he could end up as the best player in this draft. And so I just bring it up to say, that was the decision that was kind of surprising to me. I think Cade Cunningham is going to end up the best player in this draft, but it wouldn't shock me if Jalen Suggs was right there. And the fact that he fell to number 5, it might work out really well for Orlando because I think he has a chance to be really, really special.
Aaron, I appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend, okay?
Thanks, Drew.